Andrea, it's been almost a year, I think, since you came on the podcast, and probably
Yeah.
since yeah, I know, it's probably since we last spoke, yeah, at least like this, you know what I mean? I know we had a few messages and stuff back and forth,
Yeah.
and a lot has changed for me, and I'm sure a lot has changed for you. Uh, things change all the time for people, especially within a year. I can only imagine what it was. Uh, I don't remember exactly where you were at the time, this time last year or so. So why don't you just like kind of share what you think probably changed a lot in your life in the past year?
Well, on paper, maybe not a lot.
Man,
Within me, in every possible way, everything. It's interesting how, like, I felt like I was probably the most processed, deconstructed person I've ever met. Not to say ever, but like I mean, I'd been pretty devoted to it. And 2023 went like a whole other level. It got down into the absolute, like, just finest bits. And so that was really interesting and challenging. Um, you know, right now, temporarily, some beautiful things that really have been arising, and they happen faster and faster. Uh, Dreams that I've held for a long time, coming home for a while, home being Minnesota, even though I've lived in Tennessee 25 plus years, right? Um, it all, like, things happen when they happen so quickly now. Versus a year ago, they were pretty quick, right? But now it's so rapid, it's almost impossible to get your bearings sometimes for me. And so I'm really enjoying it, and um, enjoying the increasing intensity with more. It's inviting me, the book I was writing called The Calm Way. Tell you, you want to shake loose every bit of you that's not calm, write that.
man.
And what that's allowed me to do is meet this greater and greater, like, peace for myself, even when it seems really rocky on paper. So,
Yeah, I have a few quick questions, but real quick on the book part, like you were expressing, I guess, stuff going on in your life maybe, and now you feel at peace is how you shared it. And I know that you're big in journaling and stuff. So would you consider like the book to be like a journal that kind of like release things?
well, it's written as a daily reader. There's 365 entries into it.
Hmm.
Actually 366. One was a bonus, but um, and so it is a lot of looking at your lens. There's always the invitation to sit down and, like, write or journal through it, as well as a bunch of different other practices and ways to work with our mind, and really, like, deconstructing what we think of as the right way to go through life. And not to say that there's not wrong ways. This is just the way that's helped me to get underneath everything, and especially when things more and more seem so groundless. And depending on where you're pointed, where you're looking and the lens that you're looking through, what out here seems like yeah. So there's definitely a lot of practices and exercises in it to engage with and play with. Like, I'm all about play. This past year, if anything, if you aren't, like, starting to enter into a more playful approach to life, you might just, it's going to be awfully heavy with the increasing intensity.
Right. And I guess you could come into some sort of depression and stuff like that. And, because you're not enjoying life, you're not having fun with it and getting out there. So the exercises and stuff like that you share, is that something that you've done yourself?
Yeah, like everything, every bit of this book came through, maybe it wasn't years of practice with something, but these were um, everything from sort of mantras or affirmations, considerations, contemplations. There's not one word of this book that was written that I didn't have to live. And that some of it I've lived a very long time. Some of it was over the last 2-3 years, but yeah. And so, and I think it's really neat to shift. I was a hardcore sort of meditator and big on, I won't say like this, it was never like this militant sort of approach to practice. It was more of a really soft, gentle approach to it. Because I'm not by nature the most disciplined person. Like I'm pretty relaxed in that regard. And so I had to find ways, as things have been getting more and more complex in a lot of ways in the world, for our bodies, all of these things, depending on where a person's at and their understanding or awareness of it. I had to find ways to make me want to show up and continue softening. Because for me, the only way that I've been able to all the old tricks, all the old tools that we used to get things done, move things ahead, they stopped working in 2023 for me. Everything stopped working. And that invited me into the grandest new kind of conversation with myself and with everything, with my world. And so it invited me to play. Like almost, and the beauty was in like putting on the mantle of, I'm going to play. I'm just going to play with this practice and not like take it too lightly, but take it lightly. We don't have to be brutal with ourselves to achieve something or to accomplish something. We can just come into it with like a 6-year-old would, and I got to have some pretty cool experiences in that regard. So,
What would you say the reason was that the things you were doing in the past weren't working anymore for you?
I will tell you that for me, I can't speak for anyone else. For me, the lens that I approach life through, the frequency of my very being is operating at in a way that's higher than the old paradigm, right? I was never really in the sort of hustle and grind mentality, but or like deep competition with others, or striving to manipulate. We've all experienced these things. We've all done them inadvertently or on purpose, but it wouldn't, it just wouldn't, life wouldn't allow that from me anymore at any level. Primarily the timelines and pushing anything that was, I'm trying to get this done, too much, checklists, like task lists is what I'm going to say, task lists, and just get it in there, get it done. I really I can do that, but it stopped working. So everything I would come up against, which invited me to look at the layers of myself, like where am I blocked somewhere? How do I move through that? How do I move past that? What is on the other side of this? Can I surrender enough of my attachment to this is the way the world gets it done in order to actually do what I would like to do, And so it was complex, and it was actually pretty simple. It just kept inviting me to just keep letting go of any idea of from the outside world that I've absorbed, and to find my way through it. And I think each of us has our way to come to this. Jon, you're gonna find your way, and some point things may shift and may not work right the way they used to, and you're gonna have a new conversation with yourself.
And you're exactly right on the spot. I mean, like there's things going on now where, even with just the podcasting, like I'm tweaking something else, because it's not going so smooth here and I have to change things like that. And I'm just saying that because of like your scheduling and stuff. You're trying to redo how you were doing your tasks and everything like that. So it comes to a point where you do have to shift, and it might be in some areas that you really don't want to touch. I would imagine one of them for you maybe could have been you moving. Like, I mean, that's a big change. I don't know what the reason there for.
That was actually a sweet little manifestation of a dream I'd been carrying for 20 years. It's actually only a temporary relocation. I'd been trying to have my own place where my family is, like just in terms of like renting or having a place that I could just be here, be with my family, have us all here instead of split between Tennessee and Minnesota, and be in my own space. And it's actually very hard to do in this place, because there was like very limited housing and short-term rentals aren't a thing. It's a very remote area. So it was like all the usual tricks I could apply pretty much anywhere weren't happening. And I came home for a week like kind of the Wednesday after Christmas to the Wednesday after New Year's this year. And I was driving around with my cousin one night, and all of a sudden I got the nudge to turn on this street. And I said, oh, let's go down here. And she was like, oh, her sister actually had a rental that had literally just come available, and it was open for a short-term rental. So like it all worked out, and it happened in just like no time, right? I had given up even looking. It just arrived when it was the right time. So
when you were not looking.
Yeah.
Yeah. When everything comes to you.
Yeah.
That is great. So you're going to be there a short time, and are you planning to go back to Tennessee then for?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So do you find being around your family, more like building you up as a person? You find in yourself that, you said you had to shift a lot.
It's really cool because, over the last many years, it's been kind of challenging to be really, to have a relationship even, okay, let me just start with this. I don't believe family has obligation to each other, so I come to visit my people because I think they're cool people and I'd like to know them, but it's really hard to do when we see each other 6 days a year. And so this year has actually been really interesting. I came home for 2 months this summer, which seems like 10 years ago at this point, because my brother was having a health issue. And I came home and worked with my dad for the first, I hadn't done that since I was 22, and that sort of was an interesting process to go through. And then I had a whim to come back, and what it's done, to answer your question, is it's given us the chance to get to know each other again, like really get to know each other, and do a lot of releasing of old junk, stuff that we didn't even know was in there, and move past all of these. Like it actually will make me cry, like to move past all these resentments or bitterness and misunderstandings about most of them about absolutely nothing. We just didn't know how to communicate with each other. And we're learning, and we're starting to actually have a good time.
That's awesome. Yeah. So what is that like, with your family actually being open and communicating? Like, I know for me, it'd probably be kind of exciting and kind of like, here we go. You know what I mean? So, what's your take on that?
It's really the communication's such an interesting, twisty little thing. You know, what happened, like, it came about because we kind of went through some icky stuff, right? You get to a point, if you actually want to stay connected, you just have to be willing to go. And it came out in a way that was actually, I'm going to share this with you. It was actually mortifying for me. I had such an intense clearing. I felt out of control in my response. And I was actually like, there's not much that makes me feel ashamed. I was ashamed of myself, for a couple of days. And I had to really sit with that deep, like, what is this? And because I felt like I'd lost control in a way that I hadn't before. So that's what it took for me and for them, for us to really get to a point where it looked really ugly for about 30 minutes. And then we had pancakes. Yeah. But then I sat with kind of this sludge of shame and embarrassment for myself for about 2 days. And when I literally just came in and I gave myself this gentle hug and I held us all in the space of, we're doing the best we can. We're doing the best we can. And I don't know, like in that moment, I saw all of us kind of as these kids who didn't get what they wanted, right? It was like, I've never gone deep into what a lot of people talk about with inner child work, but that's what literally came up, is all of us just being kind of these broken-hearted, sad little kids. And we grew up with that, into that. So now we're actually starting to have a really nice time, but we had to go through the ugly to get to it.
Yeah. And so did you want to do that more, or did you find your family members wanting to go ahead and communicate what was happening in the past?
So it's really interesting because it was just layers and layers of, I thought we had already moved past it, right? I thought that we had gone beyond this point back in the summer without having to get to the ugly. And then, wow, yeah, like just knowing that there was some other things happening, and I thought there was just like some concern by one of my family members about their particular issue. But I had actually stepped on their toes. I had hurt their feelings, and I didn't even know what I'd done, you know? So we had to get, so how it instigated, it was just one of those things where it came to a point, and it came very rapidly, right? Because I am willing always to go through that if we can get to the other side and let this stuff go. But it wasn't like we sat down at a table, like in a sensible way, right? Like, we're going to have a meeting now about the ways we've wounded each other. It just, it bubbled up. And like literally in 30 minutes, like this whole thing erupted. It literally, so Jon, what it felt like, I remember this now. I said it felt like this karmic cyst burst for me. It was a deep, deep purging, cleansing. And inside of that, like right after that, after I allowed that to just go all the way through, let it just completely empty out of me, And that's when, interestingly, the manifestation of this came to fruition, like just like that, of my being able to be here. And now we get to be here and go to the fun stuff, like, go hang out and listen to music, or my mom and I go hit some thrift shops, like we're hanging out.
Yeah.
I've waited my whole adult life, so.
Yeah, so you kind of fixed the past, you worked on it, now you're focusing on the present. And, who knows where the future is going to go. You have a plan, but, you don't know exactly how that plan's going to go. So you're being more present. Would you say that your family members are right there with you as well?
I feel like, yes, for whatever reason, you cannot bring someone into that place. But the more we find that for ourselves, because what happens then is when we're present and when we start to let go of needing to control everything, and we meet those parts of ourselves that we'd rather not, and we go through this bit by bit, layer by layer, and we start to gentle, we start to soften, and it gets easier for other people if that's not, maybe they're not like intentionally on that trajectory, but it's so nice.
I can imagine, I mean, it's just to be with those people at that given time, doing whatever you're doing and just enjoying the moment. Like that's what it really comes down to. And, whatever was communicated or any actions that happened in the past, hopefully that's all, sounds like it's all been cleansed and everything, and talked through. But, some things might come back up. You might have to discuss it again. And, as you work on yourself, being present, you're going to have to be more open and be like, hey, this is what I meant to say. This is how, I wanted you to take it, not take it this way. And then hopefully they're doing the flip side for you as well. So I guess after, 20, 30 some years or whatever, doing the other way, doing this is different. It's going to feel a little weird, but it's going to be so much better on the back end of it. I can only see your relationship with your family, whoever the family members are, just getting stronger. It is, especially since you're there now, you can continue to grow around them and they're feeding off of you as well. So that's really cool that you guys were able to just talk about whatever it was that came up and, just dug into it instead of, walking out the room or whatever and just forget about it. And it's still ingrained in you. Like you have something to say or something to do about it. That's tough. That's tough for a lot of people to start doing and to bring up and, try to work things out. But I do see, I'm glad you shared this because I do see people turning the point and actually, hey, look, we need to communicate a little bit better. And that's what it comes down to. And it's all kinds of relationships, right? Friends, family, you name it. Me with my kids, it's like, I got to tell, like, I can't just go like, hey, this is what you should be doing. No, that's not what I meant to say. I have to kind of like guide it too. And same thing for them talking to me, like, tell me how I should interpret what you're saying, because
Yeah.
how I hear it is different than how you're saying it. How you're thinking about it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really, we don't owe each other anything, not even explanations, right? But it does go it can go a long way in my house. We have times where, and I might have said this before on your show, right? But there's times when we call it no words days, sometimes it's no words hour. Like I need 15 minutes. I need an hour of, just don't ask me a bunch of questions because I literally, I can't. And so that was an understanding that came it didn't really even arise out of a pain point. It was just me honoring myself. And I love when people honor themselves, right? When my wife said to me the other day, like, I just need to hang out by myself. How beautiful, right? I didn't take that as a personal slight. Like, somebody knows what they really need for themselves to come to find their center when they're stressed out. Yeah, let's have more of that.
Yeah. No, you're right. Yeah. And then we'll come back and talk about things, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yes. I mean, you have your book, which did it come out or it just came out or?
Well, so I'm also opening up an online bookstore called Purelight Bookshop, and I've been in the process of actually building the store. So there's a large push over the last year to 18 months, a lot of authors opening up either their own storefront or going direct. And it feels really important to me to launch this direct first, to have it in the store and then bring it out on other platforms later. That's my guidance. And so it's been pretty comical, actually. Like, this has taken so much longer on every level than I anticipated. So I just keep getting invited to let it go, Andrea, and just one foot after the next, day by day. And today I actually feel like I might be getting close. I do have I was able to order a copy of the book for myself, and so that should be here hopefully next week. It's the biggest project I've ever actually done, and it's gonna be a lot of. When it came in, so it came in, I say about last December. I was sitting with a friend, and I had created this title and a mock cover for a rebrand of a different book. And when I opened up that cover that day, it would just, all of a sudden I knew there was a second book, and I didn't even know. I'd always liked the title. I say always. I'd come up with the title maybe 6-8 months prior to that. And so this was it was a gift to me, right? It feels like a capstone of sorts. And I'm excited to actually really go the distance with it in ways that I haven't with my other books. Because I don't know, Jon, you weren't their target audience. There was a book written back in the 90s called Simple Abundance, and it was written for women. And I've been in love with these daily reader type books since then, and it was when I saw the title and the whole thing came in, like the whole cosmic map came in of what this is. I knew that that this was the book that was going to be that for me. And so I'm excited to see people how they resonate with it and where they'll go in a year-long journey.
Yeah, I don't read books like that, but I do like the idea because you pick it up every day and you learn one simple, small thing, whatever it is, to hopefully, change your life that day or make you feel good in some way, right? And like you said, it's 365, 366 of them, through a whole year, things are going to change if you keep reading it and you keep doing what it, might ask you to do or whatever,
Yeah.
People change. So, I mean, like that is a great concept for a book. I really think that's cool.
I tell you what.
Yeah.
Formatting 366 entries, the editing. I was like, "Ooh, this is so much more than anything I've ever done." Just the technical parts. I'm like, so yeah, I got schooled,
A
like,
lot of work. Yeah.
whole new way. Can I show you a mock-up of
Yeah,
the
absolutely. Sure.
one, hopefully without knocking over my microphone?
Yeah, don't do that.
So let's see if it'll. So the subtitle is 365-day journey out of the weeds and into the wilds of true inner freedom. Let's see if I can get it
Yeah,
here.
that's a little bit better. There you go. Calm way. Cool.
So, kind of, but yeah. Anyways, I sure appreciate you letting me share about it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm excited to see it come out. You said, I guess it's a little boutique stores coming out too, or?
Yeah, yeah. The bookshop, I am really tickled. That was a missing element for me, right? I've been having sort of these different parts coming together. That's the fun thing about when you're playing and you've got these, people, they'll love the term multi-passionate, right? And I meet these wonderful people. I have a handful of people who I want to bring their work into it. And we'll start there, like, what can we do together? What can the power of two people, three people playing together is so interesting to me. Maybe 10 people, maybe 20 people. Initially, it's going to be me because I really need to get this store open. Like, I need that win for myself of just that sense of having, this has been a very long process. And so getting that open, and then over the next month, 2 months, bringing the right players in to do things. And I do want to keep it a boutique, sort of feel of really curated people whose work I just value, humans who I value, and know that they really are bringing their light and shining it and sharing it as best they can. And we got some musicians and some artists that I hope to be bringing in as well for sort of delivery of. I got to figure all of that part out of it yet,
Yeah, everything's a learning lesson, right?
Yeah.
That's so cool. I do appreciate you sharing everything that you shared, with, I'm sure it's not everything that happened in a year, but it's a lot. So since you were already on here, I already asked you the other question before. I'm going to just ask you, what is your number one value?
My number one value: willingness to be wrong.
Okay. Can you elaborate on that?
So I think that's the tool. Maybe that's not the value. It's, well, yeah, willingness to, my path is towards transcendence. Always has been, can't seem to shake it. And so in that, willingness to be wrong, or willingness to shift, in order that my optimal, my highest and best can come through, and without that really loaded sort of garbage distortion of perfectionism. It's not got anything to do with that. It's got to do with just walking in my bones comfortably, and knowing that if I am not on point with something, or I've got it wrong, am I willing to just open myself and find out what find out? We'll just leave it at that. Am I willing to find out? So you could wrap that all up in curiosity, right? Just be curious,
I like that. Yeah, I'll take that. Yeah. Yeah. So feel free to share, when you're book is out in boutiques, and if you got locations or whatever, you know, and if somebody can buy it online, great. You know, just yeah, you can use my Facebook group or you can whatever, you know, your choice. But hey, Andrea, it's been great to see you and talk to you again. I know it's been a while, so let's stay in touch, and I'm excited to see where you go in the next year.
Oh, I love it. And I got such a kick out of seeing your pictures from Podfest. Like, oh, that's a whole new Jon.
From this year, right? Is that what you're talking about? Yeah. Yeah, it was great. And so that was Elaine, and she's from Canada, and she's a podcaster. So I had her on my show, and I'll be on hers this week. But yeah, to actually see somebody, meet them in person, you know, from a whole nother country was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we didn't have much of a conversation, but I mean, because she's going that way, I'm going this way, but you know, it's great to stir on into each other. Yeah, and you know, I did take my kids there, so they got the experience as well.
Wow.
Not that they paid attention to everything, but they were there. So it's definitely
the next generation. Yeah,
we're working on it.
Awesome. Well, Jon, thank you so much, and it's just really, really great to connect with you again.
Yeah, same here. Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah.